Okay, part 3. Some more exciting things to do on your Easter eggs or any other project you want to do. We're just looking at some tools that can be used to make your digitizing a little bit more interesting. Before I go into the lesson for today, I would like to shout out to Marianne. Thank you very much. She's given me a couple of super thanks, which is just a small donation, but every bit counts and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. If you want to help me too, you can click on the super thanks button below this video. Okay, so the design I had right at the beginning in part 1 in blue, I have changed to a very bright pink on a lime green background, just to show you that you can get different effects using different colours for a start. Now this egg is quite large. Let me just select that part of it, which, I've got it all grouped, so that's the whole egg. And it is 85 wide and 116.5 millimeters tall, so it's a large egg, mainly because I wanted to use these motifs from the software. So it depends on your project, but there's two things to look at, and I looked at putting designs in the previous part 2 which is for both Creator level and Designer Plus level, of how to add motifs. So I've added these motifs just so that you know where I got them from. Let me just see if I can find them. So if I wanted to add a motif, insert embroidery would be the tool, and then I can search, and they were in the Floral and Garden, and let me just go down till I find them. I won't be able to find them now, will I? They were blue. Here we are. So the lace flowers in the Floral and Garden, you can use those if you wanted to create a large, I'll just close that now, a large egg. So what I've done is I've put one in and I've mirror merged to get them facing each other, and here as well, and here as well. I think I've flipped these ones upside down. So all those things I've covered in other videos. These little ones at the top, I actually cut them off from, this was one motif. I have to ungroup, and let's go out of true view so you can see. This was one motif, and I just cut one with 2 leaves off it, and I had to remove a travel run as well, I think, to get that one little motif, and then I mirror merged those. So you can play around a lot with what's already in the software. Now the other thing, if I go back to true view, is the outline. In Designer Plus we have a fancy fill outline. So I have used that. Let me go to the object properties and see which one I used. So outline stitch. So I used a blackwork border for that one, B0013A. So if I select B0013A, it's this little one here. Now there are 2, there's B as well. So in order for them to face with the little stems facing inwards, I had to use A. If I'd have used B, the little stems would have been facing outwards. So you've got both options there. Okay, so if you'd like more details on how I did that, watch the first 2 videos and watch some of my other videos. But if you haven't, if you're still not sure how to put this together and you'd like a lesson on mirror merging, please comment below. Alright, now there's lots of other things you can do. So I've got another set of designs here where I've been playing around. So in Designer Plus as well, we also have a fancy fill. So we can This one I have filled with Fancy Fill. Now this is a much smaller egg because Fancy Fill is like a fill stitch. It does have pull, and in fact I find it pulls even more than a normal fill stitch because sometimes in the pattern it has longer stitches. So you need a good stabilizer, and you need, you know, a stable fabric as well on top that you're stitching on, and don't make your objects too big. Now you can choose whether to add a border to this or not. Which one did I use? Fill stitch. I used the Rustic Ice, number 142. So that gives you that sort of look that you get with a chocolate egg where they've got a pattern on it, but you could choose any of the other patterns. So let's choose Cash Bars and apply that. So there we have a different pattern on there. You can use the sculpture and apply that. So that will actually change the shape of the pattern. It's also put it on a 45-degree angle, so you would need to fiddle around with your grid and your layout, and I have done all of that in the Fancy Fill video, so I'll link to that below if you want to know how to get the Fancy Fill to look exactly how you want it on your egg. Let's choose a different one quickly. Let's take the sculpture off there first. Grid. You've either got sculpture or grid, and of course there's your layout button if you want to change that. So let's go, now that we're in grid, let's go to Ming. That's interesting. Apply that. So lots of patterns you can do, but as I said, on smaller eggs. All right, let's close that, and now we can look at the outlines. So of course in the previous video I did a satin border and a run stitch, triple run border I think, but we've got so many more options in the Designer Plus. We've got our pattern run, our candle wicking and our black work. So you can have a pattern border. Just be mindful that you're doing a shape, a curved shape, so not all patterns will look nice around it. This one I have, I'll just open the object properties for that. So we're now in outline stitches. That pattern is in the Bernina version 5 set, and it's NP 0050-02, but I have changed the spacing in it. So if I put the spacing back to 501.01, enter. That is the original pattern, okay? And I'm just going to go into object properties and go to the connectors because I did also change that. So I'll put that back to the default of 2 and apply. So if I went out of True View, we can see there's only a tie-in and tie-off at the beginning of that border. But because I changed the spacing to 2.5 and apply that, you can see now, because I've moved the start and end points of these, because I've moved each pattern, the distance between the start and the end points is more than the standard 2 millimeters, so it's creating a tie-in at every pattern, which would be not only ugly, it would take forever, and you have a strong possibility of thread breaks and all sorts of things going on. So when you fiddle around with your settings for different stitch fills and outlines, and you're using patterns, etc., don't forget to look out of with your connectors showing, this little button up here, and be not in True View, and you'll see if it adds extra connectors in. You can run the stitch player, but it's not always easy to see that it's actually tying off. You think it's just pausing or something, so unless you're zoomed right in. So this is the best way to check if you've got all these connectors. So if that's the case, then you can go to in your object properties, you can go to your connectors tab and just change this. Now bear in mind that if you increase this length, you're going to get jump stitches anything up to the number you put in here. So if you don't want any stitches longer than, say, 2.5, well, let's try 2.5 and see if that'll work. We'll apply that. And actually, oh no, we've got a couple still. So occasionally on the curves, it still had to do it. So let's do 2. Oh, it's actually changed to 3. Okay. It will only go up in increments of 1. So I've still got a couple of ties. I didn't notice them before, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to actually type in 3 and see if it, no, let's go up to 4 and apply that. At 4 I lost them all. So if you don't want any stitches 4mm, or as long as 4mm, then you can't overlap this pattern, this particular pattern, as much. So if I take that back to 3 and apply, if I decided I don't want any jump stitches longer than 3, now look, that's actually not added any in when I changed it back to 3, so that's good. I could leave it that, but if I went back to 2.5 and applied, oh, it won't let me, will it? So you may have to fiddle around with this figure, and also the spacing. So you could, instead of making the spacing, let's go back to 2 and apply. We could, instead of making the spacing so close, we could go to the outline stitch, and instead of making it 2.5, make it 3 and apply and see if that helps. No, 3.5, apply. Okay, at 3.5 I don't get any tie-ins, tie-offs, but they're not overlapped as much. So it's the look you're looking for and what project you're putting the outline on. So be aware of all of that when you're creating your patterns. Some patterns will work really well overlapped a lot, and others will, as I said, create connectors. Okay. If you've got any questions on that, please put them in the comments below. Now I'm going to go down here to these ones. So this one I've used a pattern fill in, and I've put a border around it because, as we know, let me just go up to this one and ungroup it. If I hide that border, as we know, with pattern fill we sometimes get gaps and we sometimes get a line around, so it's always a good idea to have some sort of border. So I'll just put that back. Alright, now I used the pattern fill for this one, fill stitch 663A. So what set is it in? It doesn't actually say there, so I'll click on select, and it was in the NP005A set, and this is the pattern here. It's quite a large pattern, as you can see, and I did have to use the layout to get this row down the center of the egg. So go back to your pattern fill video, and I'll just link to that below as well, so that you can find out how to do that layout. Okay. Now that looks pretty, but there's more you can do with this. Okay, so next to that, I'll just move these across. I've got 2 options. You can see this one's a little bit fatter than this egg, and that's because of what I did to it. This one here, I used the globe effect. So if I select it and I go to the reshape tool, you can see I've got this circle here. Now I've moved the center of the circle down lower, and actually I can make it a little bit different. I can bring this, you can put the center wherever you like, but the outside of the circle, if you bring that down too far, the outside of the circle will be below the top, and then it starts to be normal above it. So that looks quite, if I take off the, just go to select, that looks quite odd. So I'll just undo that. So you want to keep your circle when you apply the globe effect. Let me just do it on this one. So I've got those ungrouped, haven't I? I'll select. Yes, it's ungrouped, so I can do it on this one. So you come down here and click on the globe effect, and it will apply a default globe effect, whereas basically making the stitches larger in the middle and smaller around the edges. So you can reshape that globe effect by coming to the reshape object, and as I showed you before, you can move the center of the globe to a different place, but you will need to also increase the size of the globe if you want to keep that top part looking nice. So you can't bring the bottom up, unfortunately, but you can bring the sides in. So you can bring these sides in, which will change the look of it here. I didn't change the layout, so I've got different stitch down the middle, but it is centered at least, so that was a fluke. If you bring it up, you can actually make an oval shape, but it does, yes, it can be quite weird. So try to mimic the shape of your egg as best as possible and decide where you want it fattest. So I decided about here. However, I didn't actually think it made a really dynamic look with this large stitch. It might look different with different stitches, fill stitches, so you have to play around. So I decided to try the morphing effect on this one. Now the morphing effect works differently, so if I just, while this one's selected, undo this back to the original. There we go. And you saw the layout actually changed when I applied the globe effect, so you would have to redo your layout, which you can do after you've applied the globe effect if you want this row of stitches down the middle. So over here I did the morphed punch effect, which basically, oh well, I'll show you on this one again. So to get the morphing effect tools, if you haven't got them docked over here, you just come up to this swirly thing icon up here and click on it, and your morphing tools will come. And while your object's selected, just choose this one called punch. It's the top right hand one, and it will automatically make a fatter part wherever the pink diamond is, and you can adjust how much that changes. Now as you can see, it actually changed the size of the egg, so you can't do your outline till afterwards because the punch effect actually spreads the design, whereas the globe effect works with the design as it is, but the punch effect actually spreads the whole design. Now, so I'm going to get rid of that outline. So that's that first one again, isn't it? Yes, I'll just hide that for the moment so you can see. So with the punch effect, so if you lose it, you just select it and go to the reshape tool and you'll get your punch, and you can move that pink diamond to wherever you like. So if I can move it down here, you can increase the amount of punch, so it's getting fatter down here where I've got it near the diamond, and you can decrease the amount of punch, and you can see the egg is coming in thinner, so it doesn't really make much difference there. But if I bring it out, I've got quite a bit of punch there in the middle. You can apply more than one effect from the morphing effect to each design, but once you've applied one and move on to the next, you can't edit this one anymore. So get this one right, and again it's moved the layout. So once you're happy with the amount of punch, then you can select your design and go to the object properties and go to the layout button and take your one that's in on the bottom left, the blue one, and line that up in the center and enter. And now you can see that it's punched that middle one right out, and I think that gives a more rounded look effect rather than this than the globe effect that I had before, which was this one. No, that's the punch. This must be the globe effect. Yes, this is the globe effect, and it doesn't really have the same look, but you may want to digitize your egg a little bit narrower to start with if you don't want it to get too round. Okay. Now up here, what have I got here? I have got 2 pattern fills. So if I select this one, and is that grouped? No, I haven't got an outline around it. That's good. Okay, I can go to the object properties, and here you can see I've put 2 patterns in. So I selected pattern number 738, which came from the heirloom selection. So that would be that round one there, 738. I selected that for my first pattern, and I'll cancel that. And then I came over here and ticked the box for an alternate pattern, and this one was in the Bernina 5 pattern set, and it was number NP005-27. So they're all NP005, so just go down to the 27, that's it there. Now there is a big gap between these, so that's actually a jump stitch. I haven't done anything about that at this point in time. It looked quite pretty, but I would think that that jump is way too long. These are bigger eggs, so let me just cancel out of that and go OK. And if I put my grid on, you can see that that jump stitch is nearly 10 millimeters long. And if we go out of True View and zoom in, we haven't, and put our make sure our connectors are showing they are, we haven't got any ties off here. Okay, and if we put our needle points showing, there are no needle points between these jump stitches. So you need to be careful which patterns you put together, because if I go to object properties for this, the only column spacing you can change is this one here. There's no column spacing. You can change the size of this motif, but you can't change the spacing. It's governed by the first motif you use. You see the size X for the first motif was 11.14 millimeters. So they've got a column spacing of 11.15. Close enough to exactly the width of the first motif. So you could make this motif smaller and the spacing smaller, or you could make this motif wider, or choose different motifs. But double check when you're doing these combinations. Let's take that grid off so it's not annoying us. And I'm going to actually change the width of this pattern, the second choice, to 8, so double the width, and apply that. And I would just need to check that that's, I think that would be fine. Let's put our grid back on. So now our jump stitch is only about 4 millimeters at the most. I could measure it. View, measure, and start here. It's only 3 millimeters, just over. So I could also go up. This long one here is the longest stitch in that pattern, and that's only 2.87. So I'm happy with that. Escape out of my measuring tool by hitting escape twice. So that is one option, but you really need to play around so that everything balances out and you haven't got long, loose jump stitches. Okay, so now I've done that. I didn't do it on this one, but I actually tried to do, let's put it back to True View, I tried to do the punch effect on this one because it worked so well on this pattern down here. So let's try it here on this one and go to our punch tool, and let's move it down here. Now you can't really play with the layout on this combined one either anymore, so getting it centered is probably not so easy as far as getting the pattern centered. Oh, we'll see. We'll try playing around with the layout. So I'll just increase that a little bit. And it doesn't look as nice, I don't think. Let's try and do the layout. So we'll select it, go to the object properties, go to the layout. And let's center that on the egg. I'm just doing it by eye, and enter. I didn't get it quite right, and yes, I would have to fiddle around, but I'm really not as happy with that as actually this one here, where I applied the globe effect. So while the globe effect wasn't as good with this pattern as the punch effect, in this instance the globe effect looks much nicer, I think. So you really need to experiment with each of your designs. Again, I should have, let's just undo the punch effect altogether off this one, because now I didn't alter this one, so the jump stitches are too long. So on this one I'm going to apply the globe effect. So I'm clicking on the globe, and I'll go to the reshape tool. I'll move that down a little bit to about there, and I'll increase the size of my circle so it doesn't cut the top off, just a little bit bigger. There we go, and I'll narrow it in. And click off. So even without doing any layout issues or anything like that, actually it's not too bad. It's probably could have a layout. Oh, we're in the object properties already, so I'll just click on this one and go to the layout. Oh no, it was escape. I think I'll start from scratch. I'll close that object properties. While I'm on this, I'll right click and go to the object properties for that one and go to the layout. Oh, it's doing it over here, but it is this one here, I'm sure. So I want that centered. Enter. There we go. That looks really nice. I might just go back. It's a bit clunky up here, so I might, or it depends what sort of border I'm going to put on it. If I put a satin border, that'll cover that. But if I'm only putting a triple run, I've got a lot of stitches all together up here. Let me just try going to the reshape and try going up just a fraction with my circle there. No, I'll come back. I think I would have to do my layout again. It does help a little bit, but and just bring all the patterns down a little bit so that I haven't got a bunching up of stitches at the top. Little things to keep an eye out for. But as I said, if you were going to do a satin border around that, let's just do that. Right click, sorry, not right click, go to the edit toolbox while it's selected, choose your outlines and offsets, choose a satin outline. I can never find it, and I'll choose that same color and go OK. You see that covers that up nicely. So just a few more things you can do with the egg. This is going to complete this series, so unless you've got particular questions down below, and I'll address those in another video. I hope you have fun applying these effects to different embroidery designs, not just Easter eggs, and happy digitizing. Please remember to subscribe if you want to keep up with all the videos.